success, failure, and everything in between. Raising the business game together. Learn from leaders, innovators, and misfits on how to get made in China.
I met Ruben Payan through Irene Hong, a trusted and cherished friend who I call cousin. She told me he would be a great contributor since he's a fitness pioneer whose career was made in China. I immediately called him in Beijing from Shanghai, where he said he was game to get behind the Made in China mic, and 2 weeks later, we were sitting across from each other at the opposite house in Sanlitun. Ruben has multiple patents on fitness equipment and certified over 1,000 trainers in Western fitness techniques, all here in China. He's also climbed the 7 highest peaks in the world and is preparing to tackle K2 next year. This was going to be big. Heck, Ruben was pretty big at first glance. He clearly resembled a fitness professional, rocking a black t-shirt that said "Powerful Human" on it. And who was I to argue, since I'm about a foot shorter and didn't look too powerful next to Ruben? His story begins as the youngest in a family of 10 children, with an aunt who had been badly injured in a car accident. Lucky to be wanted and raised by these grandparents, he knew them as mom and dad, and they got by on a single blue-collar income. Ruben found out at 16 that his girlfriend was pregnant and joined the Marines to provide for his new family. Later, Ruben was married and divorced, all before moving to China with Cami, his anchor, where his business and his career took root.
I think we always look for our parents, call it the battery pack. Like they're the number 1 and 2 in our battery pack that are just like motivating us and supporting us. And you just feel like as parents, like that's your responsibility.
Right.
Like you should be like the super motivator, right? And sometimes it doesn't work out that way.
Right.
I remember asking my mom what she thought about me coming to China. And when you understand my relationship with my mom, I was always looking for approval. I don't even know why. Because my mom didn't raise me. Mm. My grandmother raised me. So I remember when I asked her, I said, Mom, I'm thinking about going to China. And she says, sounds like a great idea. Like, okay. Another confirmation to get the hell out of my face.
Yeah.
No, like, hey, why are you going? Or, maybe you should stay. Or, I'd like to spend time with you. Is like, hey, sounds like a good idea. She's like, I never told you, but when you were like 3 or 4 years old, I was driving in a car and you were sitting in the passenger seat. I had just taken you to go get a burger at the big Sonic. Sonic?
Yeah, Sonic. Yeah.
And I'm listening to the story because I'm kind of reliving this in my head, and I couldn't remember. Yeah. And my mom says that I'd finished my burger, and I pointed out the window at one of the stars, and I said, China, 3, 4 years old.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
Mom's like,
all right.
It doesn't even concern me.
Sure.
That you're going to China or thinking about going to China, because I remember this moment very vividly during the time we spent with each other. There wasn't a lot of those times.
Right.
Okay. Now I understand why she's okay with me, with me going, and it was like like part of this healing process for me with my mother.
Yeah.
And so one thing leads to another, and she was been a big supporter, a big supporter. And she's a Harley rider. Shirt off, riding in the back of Harleys, going to Sturgis.
Yeah.
Imagine that kind of woman. You're driving the freeway and you see a topless lady.
Yeah.
And blonde hair and a bandana in the back of some guy with tattoos. And that's my mom.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Free.
Sure.
Free spirited. I want to get it and let the wind blow in my face and let it all go. Mm. I'm the same way. The one thing that my mom has passed on to me is having that go get it attitude with life.
Yeah.
And not giving a shit when anyone else says.
Yeah.
It took me a while to get there. Yeah. It took me a while to actually see through the swamp, the mugginess of the relationship. It's like, what did my mom give me? And I get this image of my mom on the Harley and I'm like, that's me.
Yeah. With your life. That's what you're doing.
I just happen to use it in a different way.
Exactly.
Yeah. But the engine's there.
Yeah.
So that's kind of been like my life. And that's where Powerful Human kind of came to be. Powerful Human was something that I used when I was going through a divorce. And I used to drive from Chandler to Scottsdale, which is about a 30, 45 minute drive at 5 a.m. I was going through a divorce, and it was a really rough time for me because this was like my first heartbreak.
Yeah.
Right? And going through this feeling rejected and going through this, like, why didn't she love me? Actually, it was an amicable divorce. It wasn't a lot of fighting. And I was driving at maybe 5 a.m, and something came to me just to scream.
Yeah.
So I rolled up my windows and I would scream, "I'm the most powerful human in the world." And I would just scream it. Preston, I was just screaming. Because I didn't know what the hell to do. It was like my anger management. It was like my therapy, and it was a way for me to get it out before I started my day.
Sure.
And so I would scream, "I'm the most powerful human in the world. I'm the most powerful human in the world." Like, in the midst
of all that,
of all the shit, all the chaos and all the fighting and all the clutter in my head, this was like the only thing that felt good. So I just kept doing it. It was my happy place.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I got it for a little bit. I kept that happy place until you plug back into the rest of the world and everybody started talking about your divorce, and you get the paperwork in, and your son is missing you and this one, and then you're just like, I need to get back in my car.
Yeah.
And I just kept on saying it over and over again. And I started noticing that my life started getting a little better.
Yeah.
And I think maybe my perspective on life started getting a little better, where I started feeling like maybe I had a little bit of control over what was happening in my life, just a little bit. And that made me feel good.
Sure.
When you feel like everything is out of control.
Yeah.
I look back now and I see that all of that was like learning, like that conditioning. Like, you got to go and you got to get a little dirty, right? So you know what clean really looks like.
Sure.
Right? And so, that's how Powerful Human was born. It was born because I needed a happy place. I needed this place where I felt safe, that I felt like no one could hurt me, that I felt like I was invincible. And so one thing led to another, and I hadn't even thought about China yet. And, I remember I was dating Cammie, and I went and I checked the domain name. I'm like, all right, what are the chances of powerfulhuman.com being taken? It was available. All right. So I secured it, right? I'm like, okay, let me check the trademark. And it was just like snowballing. Right. And then I came to me, I'm like, well, there was no philosophy. There was no nothing. It was just like searching. No clue what you're doing. You're just kind of following this guidance of what to do, and you don't even know why you're doing it. You're just doing it.
Right.
And right around that time, the divorce had finalized, and I was getting ready to I was helping this lady get ready for Kilimanjaro. And she was getting ready for Kilimanjaro, and she hired me to get her ready. And so I'm helping her, and one day she asked me if I would go to the highest point. It's the highest point in Arizona is Mount Humphreys in Flagstaff. She asked me if I would help her train.
Sure.
Didn't want to climb.
Right.
Hated climbing since the Marine Corps. Was like against it. Right. It's
right.
Like,
nothing worse.
I don't even want to go. Right. It was a Saturday. That means I couldn't go out on Friday.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Because I had to get up early. So I'm like, okay, I'll do it under the umbrella of training and supporting and all these things. And I went with her and I climbed with her, and we did this 3-hour trek, and I just got to the top of Mount Humphreys. Boy, it just hit me.
For summit, man. Right?
It hit me. It hit me right in the chest. And if you've ever had a moment hit you where there's nothing in the world that matters but where you're at that present moment, I think how can we capture that and keep that forever? Well,
Yeah.
It's that awareness. It hit me. I'm like, I have to do this.
Yeah.
I have to do this. A few weeks later, I went with Cammie to the tattoo parlor, and I tattooed all the names of the highest mountains on my back.
Really?
Yeah. Went right down to the tattoo parlor, and I put the 7 summits on my back. I had no idea where some of them were.
Right.
I had no idea how much they were going to cost. It was just something that internal guidance says, this is what you have to do. And I went and tattooed it, and everybody thought I was crazy. Thought I was nuts. Then a week after that, I went back and I tattooed K2 on there. And the whole purpose of Powerful Human is, how big are you playing? And at that time in my life, that was the biggest that I could possibly think of playing. So we come to China. So originally the plan was just to come to China for a year, get all the information, take it, go back and implement it into my fitness business that I had in the US. But essentially, so we landed at the airport, and I tell this story because this was the moment that everything else beyond was just magic.
Yeah.
So we land at the airport, 11 bags. We're in Phoenix, and they're figuring out how much they were going to charge us for luggage from LA to Beijing. They knew how much from Phoenix to LA, and time was going by. And it was about 45 minutes before our flight was going to leave. Now, bro, we're sitting there with 11 bags, and I'm looking at the clock, and I told Cammie, we're not missing this flight. And I talked to the manager, and I said, what would happen if we left our bags here? And the manager says to me, we'll throw it away. And I looked at Cammie, and I says, grab what you need. We're out of here. She goes in there and grabs some photos.
Yeah.
Grabbed some camera cords.
This was your life. This was everything in these 11 bags.
Everything. You just feel that calling that, look, I don't care about the stuff. I'm just not going to miss that flight.
Yeah. I got to get there.
My destiny is to be on that flight.
Yeah.
And if the flight goes down, so be it. That's
right.
where I was
That's
supposed to be, right?
Right.
The manager looked at us like we were crazy, right? Like, and so we grabbed the stuff and gone.
Everything.
Nothing. We land into Beijing, and I told Cammie, let's take a picture. I got the picture in my computer.
Uh-huh.
She had a little Stella McCartney bag. I had my little computer case. Still had 7 mountains to climb.
Yep.
Right? On my back.
Yep.
And we landed in Beijing with literally nothing. And people talk about we didn't have anything. No, we didn't have anything.
Right.
Like, just that. We were renting a room out of a married couple's home for like, 5,000 kwai a month. We had no idea. We thought it was a good deal.
Right. Dang. Wow.
Right?
What year was this?
This was in 2007.
2007.
This
Yeah.
is March. We arrived March 1st, 2007.
Man.
So I took the picture. We took the picture. I was like, this is a pivotal moment in our life. I don't know what the hell is going to happen tomorrow.
Sure.
But what we do have is everything.
Yeah.
With nothing.
Yeah.
Just my girl and I, and a few things.
All we need.
And ideas. Just ideas. And not even ideas to like create a business or anything. It was ideas just to experience China.
Yeah.
As I reflect back on what has happened in my life since 2007. And I just go down the list. Finish the 7 summits. First fitness professional ever do that in China. 7 inventions in China. 5 or 6 trademarks in China. We've certified over 1,000 coaches in China. Where's the American dream? For me, it's in China.
Yeah. Ruben Payan's story of success truly is China-made. But little did I know that we'd be diving deep, blind, at the top of Mount Everest.
I wanted to recite you the Shield of Light poem.
Yeah.
Because it was interesting because before I climbed Mount Everest in 2013, I had this poem tattooed on my arm. And it just came to me, and I write poetry, and it's my way of expressing. And it goes like this. With a touch of wind, you shall travel beyond the clouds to a kingdom of dreams. With a vision of moon to sun, you shall see the gifts in others. With unconditional love, they will believe. With sound of ocean on land, you will find reason to live, for this journey is never complete. With love from Mother Earth, your heart burns with fire taken by breath. You are reborn again, with wings for protection. And so, Shield of Light has always been like my go-to
your mantra.
affirmation.
Yeah.
And being on Mount Everest really kind of brought that to light because, about 50 meters, 75 meters from the summit, I was in the north side. I went blind. This is a whole other conversation, a whole other interview. Yeah, I went blind on Mount Everest, about 75 meters from the summit, about 30 minutes from the summit on the north side, and it was from wind blindness. And when you leave Camp 3, 8,300 meters, about 10 o'clock at night, and you leave at night so you can reach the summit at 6 in the morning, 7 in the morning. So the cutoff is about 9 a.m. So you got about 12 hours to get the summit because you got to get back down because of the limited oxygen. And I got wind blindness at about 50, 70 meters. I started feeling it throughout because the wind was hitting us at night and we didn't have goggles on because it's nighttime and the goggles are tinted, so I couldn't really see. So no one's wearing goggles. We're moving at night, feeling good, but my eyes started getting really gummy. And I said, something's not right here.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just going to continue to move forward because,
Gotta keep going.
I got to keep going and I'm no bitch.
Yeah.
That's that Marine Corps kicking in. Like you're going to push through this because guess what? I can conquer this mountain myself.
Right.
Sure. And it started getting worse. And the Sherpa behind me kept yelling at me. He's like, stay in the footholes. The footsteps in front of you. And I kept on like veering off. And like veering off is like a 2,000-foot drop. I mean, it's done. You're on Everest. Like, you're on the highest mountain in the world. Like, people dream their whole life to be on the highest mountain in the world, and you're getting ready to fall off because you can't see, right? You can't see. So I stop, and for a moment, and then his name is Lakba. I said, Lakba, we got a problem. And he says, well, what is it? I said, I can't see. And he said, well, how bad is it? I'm like, I don't know what color you're wearing. And he was like,
in your face,
in front of me. And he's like, okay, we're about 20, 30 minutes from the summit. Let's get to the summit and then we'll figure it out from there. And I said, okay, so you think about this, because I reflect back on it and I'm like, this freaking really happened?
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
The life will give you things, experiences. You ask and you shall receive.
Right.
Ask to learn and develop more of this internal self.
Yeah.
Oh, life's going to give you some good stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we get to the top of Mount Everest. Imagine this. You just reached the top of the world. You're there. You should be celebrating. You made it.
But you can't see.
But you can't see. And you're not happy. You're not excited. You're scared.
Yeah.
You're afraid. You're afraid that you're going to die.
Yeah.
Death.
It's knocking. It's right there.
Death comes in. Starts talking to you. Just go to sleep.
Yeah.
All you have to do is sleep. Everything will be fine. Sitting on the top of the mountain. they had my banner inside my jacket. And I'm like, okay, well, let's get the picture. I got to show people that I was at least here, right? Salvage whatever I needed to salvage and show people that he made it to the top. You don't know if he made it back, but he made it to the top. And I took a couple pictures, and you've seen the powerful human picture of love. That was the value which we climbed for. And I sat there with the Sherpa, and I'm like, imagine going to a skyscraper off on a ladder and someone kicks the ladder off.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, well, that's really?
Yeah.
Really? Did you just take the ladder away?
Right.
You're on Mount Everest. You're blind. So if I put a piece of white paper over your eyes and that's all you were able to see, that's exactly what it was like.
Yeah.
Like, I wasn't sure if it was my exposure to high altitude.
Sure.
I didn't know if I was going to stay blind.
Right.
I'm thinking like, we got to open up the hallways in my apartment, put some guiding rails.
Yeah. I'm blind forever.
I'm blind forever, man.
Yeah.
Like, I'm blind forever. Like, my life will never be the same.
Yeah.
But I got to get down. And I could feel Lakpa was really concerned, and he's like, I don't know how we're going to do it, Ruben. You're talking about a man who's summited Everest 16 times.
Sure.
He has the Guinness Book of World Record for the fastest ascent. 10 hours and 57 minutes.
Yeah.
He's a monster on the mountain. And he's saying to me, I don't know what we're going to do because I've never brought someone down blind, especially on the north side, yeah? If you can't go across the street with your eyes closed, more or less come down off of Mount Everest blind. Right. And I said, well, this is the Ruben the thinker came in, and he's like, okay, well, I go, how about you talk to some of the other Sherpas that are up here, and I'll pay them $1,000 per head to help me get down to Camp 3.
Sure.
And he's like, okay, let me talk to him. But they were all busy with clients. Everyone's tired.
Yeah.
And that's when people get into the most trouble, is when they make it to the top and they still have to come down. So the Sherpas know they're already limited with oxygen.
Right.
They got to get them down. It's really, really critical that they stay with them.
Right.
Because one fall,
you're dead.
They hurt their ankle, they break their legs, you're done. They're done. I've never seen dead bodies until I climbed Mount Everest on the north side. And it's the freakiest thing ever. You think, wow, that's a life.
It's just literally stuck there.
Stuck there. How did that happen? What happened? And you find really quick that bad stuff happens on Mount Everest. And you just find yourself in it. And I'm like, okay, I'm that guy.
Yes. Yeah.
Death and I are dancing.
Yeah.
Because all I have to do is close my eyes and I'm that guy.
Sure.
And so Lakpa couldn't find anybody to come down Everest on that summit. Now you have to understand, Lakpa has 3 children. Mm-hmm. He's been doing this for over 25 years. Has a family, and so when he made the decision to stay with me, that means he had to lock in off of a 2-meter lanyard. And I'm 90 kilos, yeah. He's 75 kilos, 80 kilos. If I fall,
he's going with you.
Done. Like, we're gone.
Yeah.
So you have to imagine, what would you do?
Right.
If you were Lakpa?
Right.
No help. Just you and I. You got a man, a life on top of the summit. It's like, what's the irony? Like, I made it to the top of the world, but I couldn't freaking see it, right?
Right. And then you might take someone down with you.
And I'm like, overwhelmed with guilt. I'm overwhelmed with guilt because I'm like, what would happen if I fall?
Right. I'm sacrificing this man. All for me.
And the other side, I'm like, don't leave me.
Yeah.
Don't leave. Need your help. Truly need your help. Just don't leave. My voice inside was saying, don't leave, man. I'm not ready. Damn it, I'm not ready. And he said, let's try. He's like, let's try to get you down. So there we go, man. I mean, somebody caught some video. I have to show you some video of this. But they actually caught some video of me like staggering down. It was like, okay, I don't ever want to be this guy. And that was me, right?
Yeah.
So we get down about 200 meters and it wasn't going to happen, bro. Like it was seriously work. And there were sections of coming down the ladder where, okay, you cannot see. Your chest is facing the mountain. You're coming down the ladder and your legs are dangling. And he's like, okay, you have to drop your right foot 2 meters. I'm like, well, that's like 6 feet.
Yeah.
I
can't see that.
I have to let go.
Yeah.
I have to let go and I have to trust. I have to trust in another human being and believe that they're looking in my best interest. It's just like processing and letting go. And it was over and over and over of letting go. And pretty soon you just say, screw it. If the next step is my last step, so be it. It's in God's hands now, baby. Like it's in God's hands. Like if the universe says this is the way I was supposed to go, then I'll accept it.
You came to terms with that.
Tired of being afraid. Tired of being afraid. Letting go. So we became good friends. Came down about 200 meters and we sat there for a little bit and I heard Lakpa talking to somebody that was coming up.
Yep.
And this gentleman by the name of Rupert. And I met Rupert maybe a week prior, about 10 days prior. And he was climbing Mount Everest with no oxygen. He was like a mountaineer of mountaineers.
Okay.
You know, that's the next level within mountaineering is doing the mountain unsupported with oxygen.
Sure.
And so I was like, I met him and he told me what he was doing. And I said, you know, you're like my mountain hero. I said this like 10 years ago or 10 days ago or 10 days prior. I call him Mountain Rambo. That's what I call him. He just had that presence.
Right.
You know, I was kind of like feeling a little nauseous. He walks in the tent and you just feel like,
oh damn,
I'm going to swallow this.
Yeah.
You know, you feel like a gunnery sergeant in the Marine Corps just walks in kind of weathered down. And he's like, swallow that throw up, boy.
Yeah.
You're like,
suck it up. Yes, sir.
Yeah. That's what it felt like when I was around him. So I just felt like I was obedient. You know, I was like respectful. It was just like, it's appreciated because I knew this guy, he'd been through war.
Yeah.
He did 25 years of mountaineering and police rescue.
Wow.
He's from Austria. And so he's coming up and I'm listening and Lakpa's explaining to him what was going on. And he walks over to me and he says, Ruben, it's Rupert. And I'm like, Rupert, hey, how you doing? And he's like, what's going on? And I'm like, man, I can't see. I go, Lakpa's trying to bring me down, but it's rough. You know, I can't see.
Yeah.
And Lakpa asked him, you know, Rupert, will you help us? Will you help me bring Ruben down? So imagine you close your eyes. You can't see. You're dead tired. You want to go to sleep. A man's coming up. He's been exposed to this death zone for a few hours already. He's already going frostbite in his nose.
Yeah.
He just has to make it to the, he has to make it to the summit, like 20 minutes, 30 minutes away and get back and he's good. Yeah. And Lakba asks him, will you help me bring Ruben down? And I'm like, there's no freaking way.
Don't do that. Yeah.
I'm like, there's no freaking way this guy is going to forfeit his summit to help me. He doesn't even know me.
Yeah.
It's that moment where you're like preparing for disappointment.
Yeah.
You ever have that moment where you're like preparing for someone to let you down, but you can't really blame them because it's like, I get it, man. I understand. You got to go to the summit. You know, you're in the death zone. You got to get there and get back because you didn't have oxygen. Right?
Yep.
And he says, I'll help you. It's like, imagine like you win a lottery ticket, like you scratch, you're like, let's say $1 million. That's another $1 million.
Yeah.
Holy smokes. And there's that moment where you're just like, that's not real.
Yeah.
Imagine that moment, but with your life.
Right. It
said live, possibly live, better chance of living.
Yeah.
I'll take those chances. You understand what I mean? Like, he's like, yeah, I'll help you. And I'm like, okay, I'm like, okay, like, thank you. Like, you know, what do I do? Like, so Lakba tied in. He was already tied into me. And then Rupert walked in from behind me. And they walked me down and it was rough. There was a moment there where still, even with two of them, I was like ready to throw the towel in.
Yeah.
Like you just get so frustrated being a grown baby.
Yep.
Reminds me of my aunt when she was in a motorcycle accident and they brought her back home at 27 years old with brain damage. My grandparents had to feed her, change her, like a baby. And you feel like a freaking infant right now.
Yeah.
You get so frustrated and it finally hit me. Now I knew why she was so angry. Because even when she recovered, she was always bitter. She was always bitter about life. Because everyone was taking care of her and she was just such an independent person when she, prior to the motorcycle, I was just, now I got it, man.
Yeah.
I know why she was always pissed. I'm pissed now.
Yeah.
And so, I remember I was ready to like throw it in. Like, I'm like, screw this. Like, starting to think about what to tell Cammie, what to tell my son. Like, okay, guys, I just want you to, and I just want to go to bed. Let me just find a rock away from the wind and the cold and let me just go to sleep. And right around that time of like, I'm out. Like right before the I'm out, Rupert drives his elbow into my ribs. It was a really weird moment. Yeah. Like he just hit me and he's like, keep fighting. And it just like turned on those.
Jarred you.
Yeah, turned on those Marine Corps, the juices of the Marine Corps. Like, okay, gunnery sergeant say keep on fighting. Like, I gotta keep on fighting, you know? And just whatever happens. Yeah. I'm just gonna go with it. It took us about 11 hours to get down. And I finally made it to, now, mind you, I'm still thinking I'm going to be blind the rest of my life, right? I have no idea. I get inside the tent, piss all over myself because I couldn't go anywhere else. And, I remember feeling so guilty because I had to take a piss so bad. I'm like, oh man, I gotta piss. I'm in this like down suit and I gotta piss. And I felt so guilty. Like, guys, you know, I gotta pee. Yeah. I'm like, I'm not screwed. I'm just gonna piss on myself, like, over and over again. Just saturate myself in my own urine. Yeah. You know, like that. Because for me, not keeping them exposed to those elements just a little bit longer.
Right.
Made me feel better. Yeah. Like at least I was able to have enough courtesy to piss on myself so that the people that were loving me and helping
risking
me
their life for you, right?
and risking their life on me didn't have to be in the wind just a few seconds longer.
Right.
Like that was my way of like making myself feel better. Like at least I didn't say, hey guys, I need to piss here. And then we were spending another 30 seconds.
Right.
You know, you get processing so quickly, and I get down in the tent and you realize that you're going to live.
Yeah.
You realize that you're going to live. Not that you're going to have a successful business, because you don't give a shit.
Right.
Not that people are going to love you, because you don't care. Not that you're going to get a promotion, because it doesn't matter. That you're going to live. That you're actually going to live.
See you tomorrow.
And be with your family again. And be with your dogs again. I'll never forget it. Because that was the moment that I said, all this other stuff is cool. It's fun. Great experience. Start a business. Be an entrepreneur. Inspire people. It's all good. Man, I get to live. I get to live another day. Get to see the trees again. My dog gets to lick my face again. Stuff that really matters, man. I get to see my boy again.
Yeah.
And I came back and I just said, you know, all this stuff is cool. I know it's good. But this is nothing. What's valued is the fact that you get to live. You get to exist and coexist with other people. And there was just this buffer between who I was and who I am and all this other stuff that I thought was important, that I used to get upset with or used to get frustrated with. And you just walk around life and you're just happy just to be here, which is like a really weird feeling, because no matter what's taking place in your life, when it gets chaotic and it gets like stressful, like you can stop and you can laugh at it, literally laugh at it. I'm alive, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm alive. And all that other stuff is like nothing.
Right.
It's nothing. It means nothing. Everest was a learning lesson for me, because prior to Everest, I've always had the attitude, I had this quote, the safest bet in the world is always on yourself.
Yeah.
And sometimes life says, sometimes it's not.
Right.
Sometimes the safest bet in the world is on other people.
Yeah.
Other people that believe in you and believe in life.
Yeah.
And I asked Rupert, I said, had to find out, right? Why'd you do it? Why did you do it, Rupert? Came back, finally made it back to the base camp, and I got a chance to see this man. I'll show you a really good picture. He had gone frostbite in his nose, all black. And I said, why did you do it? Why did you turn around? Because this is the big question with mountaineering. You just spent all that money, all the time training. I mean, you put in all the work. You get that close to the summit. And then here's a moment where you're like, I have two choices. I can help this guy, or I can go and achieve my dream and achieve my goal and come back.
Right.
And if he's there, I'll help him. If he's passed away and he's frozen, everybody else will understand why.
Right.
Everybody will be able to accept why I made the choice to continue on to the summit. That's believable, because people can say, well, you know, if I was in the situation, maybe I would have done it different. Some people are like, you made the right decision. He was going to die anyways.
Right.
They're talking about me.
Right.
This is the freaky thing about it, is that they're talking about me and I'm able to live. was able to, like, the grace of God, whoever you believe in, spoke to that man and spoke to Lakpa and says, life matters. Life matters more now, and I hold this man value as I do myself. And there's this equality there. That's what we're talking about, this quality, right? And so I asked him, I had to ask him, I said, Rupert, why'd you do it? I thought it was going to be some philosophical, beautiful. He said, because you're a human being. It was one of those moments where he's like, from wisdom and the truth, it just cut right through. He says, because you're a human being, not because you're Mexican, not because you speak English, not because you're a fellow mountaineer. Doesn't matter to me. Because you're a human being, that I'm willing to risk my life for another human being. And I'm telling you, man, to be on the receiving end of that gift, I will forever be indebted. Yep. I will forever be indebted not only to him, but to that message. And so that was my experience on Mount Everest. And so as I look back and I'm like, holy smokes, this all started from a trip to the airport and letting it all go. A trip to the airport, following my gut and letting it all go. Would I do it again? I would do it again. Just let it all go. You read books about that guy. You hear stories about, I heard of a person that did that. Right. Like, I'm that guy. You know what I mean? Like, you know, those folks' tales were like, oh, this guy went blind on Everest and this happened and somebody turned around, they forfeited their summit to help him, and like I'm that guy. It's kind of creepy, right? It's like freaking me out sometimes. I'm like, there must be a bigger plan here. Yeah. There must be another reason why I had to go through that experience. And the more and more I develop and understand more about myself, I know the truth. I know the truth about me. Yeah. And the truth of that about me is that it's not about me. That's right. It's about us. Yeah. That's it.
Ruben admitted at the end of the interview that he hadn't planned on talking about Everest, and it had been a long time since he's relived the experience with someone. Man, was I lucky to capture it. He was going to die if he tried to get down himself. Absolutely. He needed to give up any sort of ego, machismo, or programming, and humbly ask for help from Lakpa and Rupert. Hearing the story unfold reminded me of my own fears. My personal Everest with my company, my marriage, my family, my kids, and there are times that I've just given in and asked for help. Lucky to always have people around there to get my back. 15 years with China, and I see this in personal relationships all the time. When a tragedy occurs or there's a challenge that can't be overcome, Chinese are comfortable in this vulnerability and rely on the help of each other to lend them money, help raise their kids in a foreign country. We see this in business as well. Locals using vendors they know and trust repeatedly versus jumping from resource to resource, even if in fact they really are better. Have you noticed a difference between foreign business people who've admitted that the challenge of China might be too much and at times asked for help versus those who continue to only rely on themselves? Being okay with vulnerability and relying on others was the way Ruben got down the mountain. Maybe that's the way humanity works. I think we might be onto something. Thanks for getting made with us at the Made in China podcast, episode 5 with Ruben Payan. Keep the feedback coming. Keep us honest, and if you like what you're hearing, please keep sharing.
You've been listening to Made in China, a podcast that raises the business game in China. We need your help. Tell us what you want and share the stories that matter. Check the show notes and more information about the show at getmadeinchina.com. That's getmadeinchina.com.